Welcome to another Cards Unbarred video. In this episode, I will show you the 3 to 4 player game Yokai Septet, designed by Yuki Yokouchi. In Yokai Septet, players will either be playing individually or in teams in an attempt to capture 4 or more Boss Yokai. Once one player or team reaches 7 or more points, they win the game. The deck makeup in Yokai Septet consists of 7 asymmetrical suits, and there are 7 cards within each suit. The green suit starts from ace to 7, working all the way up to the blue suit being 7 to 13. Depending on the edition you have, your box will come with 2 sets of 7s, regular 7s, and the shiny foil 7s. The game also comes with 4 player aids, 1 lead player card, and point tokens. The first edition player aid cards were double-sided, but in the second edition, the backside of the player aids are used for the 7 suitors variant. In this video, I am only going to be going over the rules for the second edition, but just so you know, in the first edition, there was basic scoring, where the winner of the round just gets 1 point instead of the normal advanced scoring. But like I said, in this video, we're just going to be doing the second edition rules, which only has the advanced scoring. All right, so taking a closer look, this is what the non-foil 7 looks like compared to the nice shiny foil 7. So if you have the second edition, yours is going to come with both of these. But if you have the first edition, you're just going to have the regular 7. Taking a closer look at the card anatomy, you can see in all 4 corners, there's the number of the card itself. And then right below that shows you the asymmetrical ranking within that suit. So for this green 7, you can see ace through 7. And then right below all of that, you'll see this bar, sort of like a thermometer, whatever you want to call it, that has a circle on it with little dashes underneath it. That circle is telling you where this card in particular ranks within that suit. The higher up it is, the higher within that suit it is. So the 7 is the highest card in this suit. If we then look at the 6, you can see that dot is now 1 space lower. So it is the second highest card within that suit. Going back to the 7s here, we're going to zoom in real close. You can see there are 4 dots in a square and then 3 dots below that in a line. This is for player count, and that is telling you how many points this card is worth when you are playing at that player count. So the 7 green is worth 0 points for both 3 and 4 players. Looking at the purple 7, it's worth 0 points in a 4-player game, but it is worth 1 point in a 3-player game. The pink 7 is worth 1 point for both 3 and 4-player games. Even though it's missing the black star, it's still worth 1 point because you always count up both the white and black circles in a 3-player game. 4-player game, you just count the white circles. The yellow and black 7 are worth 1 point in a 4-player game and 2 points in a 3-player game. And the red and blue 7s are worth 2 points in a 4-player game and 3 points in a 3-player game. I am first going to explain the rules for 4 players and leaving the 3-player rules for the end of the video. To set up for a game of Yokai Septet, give the 4 players a player aid, shuffle the deck and deal out 12 cards to each player, and this will leave 1 card undealt, which you will place face up in the middle of the table for all players to see. The color of this card will be the trump suit for the round. Next, place all of the scoring tokens within reach of all players, as well as the lead player card. When playing the 4-player game of Yokai Septet, players will be playing in teams of 2, sitting across from each other. So these 2 players are on a team, and these 2 players are on a team. Players will all look at their hands and decide 3 cards to pass to their teammate. There are some conventions to what you might want to pass your partner. I will go over those at the end of the video. So for now, just pick 3 cards that you'd want to pass over to your teammate. Once all players have passed the 3 cards to their teammates, everyone will take their cards into their hand. Then the player who has the green ace in their hand takes the lead player card for the start of the round. They will lead the first trick of the game, playing any card that they want to. So they're going to go ahead and play this 8 yellow. Yokai Septet is a must-follow trick taker, so if any player has the same color as the lead suit, they must play it. So in this case, they will play the 9. This player over here will play the 6. Now, if you do not have the card of lead suit, then you can play any card that you'd like. So in this case, they're going to play this black 7. The winner of the trick is whoever played the highest of the trump suit, if there's trump in play, which in this case there is since black is trump. So the player who played the black 7 is going to win this trick. If there was no trump in play, let's say they just played this green 5, then the winner of the trick will be the highest of the lead suit. But going back to that example, the black 7 wins the trick. So they will take all cards in the trick and put them face down in front of them except for the 7s. If you ever collect a 7, keep them face up in front of you to show how many you've taken. Once one team has taken 4 or more Boss Yokai or the 7 cards between the 2 players, the round will end and they will score points. It's recommended whenever you take multiple tricks between your teammates that one player keeps all of the tricks in front of them. So if this player over here was to win a trick, then you would just want to put the pile stacked together with the one player so all players can easily count how many tricks in total both players have taken. So this player will now lead the next trick, and they'll play this blue 13. This player only has 1 blue card, so they will play that. Comes here, they'll play the blue 7. And they will play the blue 8. So the blue 13 is going to win the trick. So they will take all of the cards, stacking them and stacking the 7 in front of them as well to show they've taken 2 tricks and 2 Boss Yokai 7 cards. Fast forwarding a trick here. This player won the 3rd trick and they are now going to lead playing this 10 yellow. The next player must follow and play their yellow 7. The other teammate from here wants to try and win that 7, so they're going to play this black 11, which is the trump suit and is currently winning. However, this ace card is a very powerful card in the game. So since this player doesn't have yellow, they are going to choose to play that green ace. This card wins the trick regardless of whatever else is in the trick itself. So whenever you're checking for trick resolution, always look to see, was the green ace played? If it was, it outright wins. If the green ace wasn't played, then you look for highest trump. If there's no trump, then highest of lead suit. Play will continue like this until one of 3 situations occur. The first 2 are more common. The last one, you don't see that often, but it does come up. One way the round can end is if one team captures a total of 4 or more Boss Yokai cards face up in front of them. So in this case, this team here has 4 Boss Yokai. So the round would end immediately on the trick that they do that. They will score points based on all of the Yokai cards that they have captured. So in this case, they would take all 4 of these cards and score the white star points shown on them. However, the trump 7 of the round is disregarded, it will score 0 points for the round. So in this case, the team will score 5 points, 2 points for the red, 1 point for the pink, 2 points for the blue, and 0 for the black, because black is the trump suit for the round. The other way the round can end is if one team takes 7 tricks, but has 3 or fewer Boss Yokai cards face up in front of them. An important note here is if you manage to take your 4th or more Boss Yokai on your 7th trick, you are still okay and you will meet the first condition. So if the trick looked like this, and the player with the red 10 would win, this is the team's 7th trick, but they are taking their 4th Boss Yokai, so they are still going to win the round. But going back to that other example where they didn't have enough 7s, the other team wins and the other team will be the one who scores. The way scoring works in this scenario is the 7s they have already captured will count for them, and then all 7s that are left in players' hands get passed to that team so that they can score all of those 7s. Again, the 7 of trump is worth 0 points. So here the team will score 3 points, 1 point for yellow, 0 points for green, 0 points for purple, and 2 points for red. The third way the round can end is if there are no cards left in players' hands. The player with the lead player card, their team will win the round. So if this player was leading the trick, and blue was led and red is trump for the round, they would win the trick. And as you can see, both teams have 3 Boss Yokai cards and 6 tricks. So neither of the first 2 conditions were met, so this team would win. And the scoring in this situation works similarly to the first scenario, where this team will score all of the captured Boss Yokai they took for the round. So in this case, 0 points for the green, 0 points for the purple, and 1 point for the yellow, so 1 point in total. After you complete scoring, you'll check to see if one team has 7 or more points. If they do, that team wins. If not, you will shuffle the deck and redeal out 12 cards per player, starting a new round. The person who leads the first trick of the next round will be the person with the lead player card. The green ace does not get revealed. This is very important to remember. The green ace is only revealed at the beginning of the game for the first round. To set up for a 3-player game is pretty similar for a 4-player game. Hand each player a player aid, keep the scoring tokens nearby, and keep the lead player card nearby. However, instead of dealing 12 cards per player, you're going to deal 16 cards per player. There will still be 1 card left undealt, which you'll put face up as the trump suit for the round. Once players get their 16 cards, they will pass 3 cards to the player on their left. And now players are playing individually instead of on teams. So the way the round will end is going to be slightly different. In this case, a round will end early whenever one player gets 3 or more Boss Yokai cards face up in front of them, and that player will win the round. Now, scoring also is slightly different, and you are going to include the black stars on the cards as well when counting up points. So in this case, these 3 cards are going to score the yellow player 3 points, whereas in a 4-player game, they'd only score 2 points. The other way the round can end is if one player takes their 7th trick and has 2 or fewer Boss Yokai in front of them. In this case, the 2 other players both win the round, and they will score 3 points each. Regardless of any Boss Yokai that they've captured, they'll just straight up get 3 points. And the third way the round can end is after the final trick, if the first and second condition have not been met. So in this case, the red player will win as the lead player playing the red 9. They will collect the trick, and the yellow player has 6 tricks, the blue player has 6 tricks, the red player has 4 tricks, and they all have 2 7s. So the first and second condition have not been met. So the red player would win by having the lead player card at the end, and they would score points equal to the numbers on their sevens. So in this case, they'd score 4 points. Just like the 4-player game, whenever one player reaches 7 or more points, that player will win. In the situation where multiple players get 7 or more points, because 2 players can receive 3 points in a round, then that means the last round ended by somebody taking 7 tricks and not getting 3 or more Boss Yokai. In that case, the player to the left of the person who took the 7 tricks would win. So let's say the yellow player took their 7th trick. Both the red and blue player will get 3 points apiece. And now they are both at 7 points total. So they are tied, but the player to the left of the person who took the 7th trick is the red player, so they would end up winning. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to go over some of the conventions that you could use during the passing portion of the game when passing 3 cards to your teammate. Starting with one of the more common ones is if you have the green ace, giving this to your teammate is always a good thing to do because then both players on that team know where the green ace is. Since the green ace will always win when it's in a trick, that can be a really helpful piece of information when both players on the team know where it is and the other team doesn't. Of course, the very first round of the game, everyone knows where the green ace is, so this is more helpful on future rounds. Next one would be whenever you have the highest card of a suit and the 7 of that suit. It's good to pass one of these cards to your teammate. Typically, if you have the high card of a suit, you'd pass the 7 to your teammate in the hopes that they would know that means you have the highest card of that suit. You could do it the other way around, where you pass the highest card of the suit and keep the 7, hoping your teammate understands that you have the 7 and that's why you're passing the highest card. Now, this, of course, is not foolproof. You can have some problems that arise if you don't actually have both of these cards, if your convention isn't always the same. If you keep passing the high cards to your teammate every single round, whether you have the 7 or not, you might be sending some wrong signals that you have that card. So you do want to be careful about how you use that convention, but that is a nice, simple one to use. All right, in this next example, I'm going to use this hand for a couple different ways that you could pass these cards. And we're going to assume that black is the trump suit for the round. So one thing you can look for is the red and blue suits, because the 7s of those suits are worth the most points at 2 points apiece. So if you can ever find a way to short suit yourself in that suit, this can be helpful if you have the trump suit, because when blue is played into a trick, you won't have blue and you can easily try and trump in. Of course, you may get messed up by your partner passing you blues back if they're doing the same thing. So typically, one of you would want to do blue cards and one of you would want to do red cards. So in this example, this player could short suit themselves in both suits by passing all 3 of these, but maybe they have decided on their team that they're always going to be the person on the red suit that will try and short suit themselves. So they would just pass these 2 red cards. And then for their 3rd card, they have multiple options here. They could just toss out one of these purples to just give them another card. But what they could do is give their teammate a trump so they know that their teammate at least has 1 trump in their hand as well. Having trump in this game can be very powerful. So knowing that your teammate has at least 1 can be helpful if you don't have a suit. If, let's say, the yellow suit is played and you're forced to play into that trick and you had the 7, you potentially know your teammate might not have any yellows and could trump in. Another potential convention you could use would be just passing a lot of low cards to your teammate. So maybe by passing the 3, the 5, and the 5, all which are very low, not great cards, that can hopefully signal to your partner that you don't have the greatest hand. Of course, in this case, we have 4 trump, so we have some wiggle room, but again, that's an option to keep in mind. Just a quick sidebar that goes hand in hand with this passing convention. The reason why you may want to signal this kind of information to your partner is if you guys don't think you'll be able to capture 4 Boss Yokai in the round, then you'd want to make sure that your opponents capture the lower point value ones. The green, the pink, the black, the yellow, and of course the trump suit, which would be worth 0 points. In doing so, you'll make it so your opponents only get 2 to maybe 3 points in the round versus maybe 4 to 6 points if they get those higher numbers. Being in control of when your opponents take those lower 7s, making sure you lead with green or purple, or if those suits are played, if you don't have a suit and you know your opponents are going to win that trick, off-suiting those 7s is actually a valid strategy to do. That way you're giving the 0.7s to your opponents. One thing that I see players do often when they first experience Yokai Septet is they always want to try and get all the 7s themselves. But if you have a bad hand, you may need to accept that you're not going to be able to get those 4 Boss Yokai and just find a way to make sure your opponents take those lower numbers. You can also only really do this when it's earlier in the game. If your opponents have 5, 6 points, they're only a couple points away from winning the game, then you can't really do it. But earlier rounds, when it's 0 points up to pretty much 3 or 4, is where you can get away with that. Sort of just reset for the round and try again and hope for a better deal on the next round. Another convention is if you have more than 2 trump in your hand, pass 2 of your trump cards to your teammate. This way they will know that you have more trump in your hand beyond the 2 you just passed. So in this case, I have 4 trump in my hand, so maybe I pass them the 8 and the 5. My third card can be anything that I want, so maybe it's this purple 3. And then when they receive these cards, they'll see I just gave them 2 trump, and that will signal to them that I still have another trump beyond that. If you only have 2 or less trump, so say our hand looked like this instead, you don't want to pass any of your trump, and that'll let your partner know that you have 2 or less trump in your hand. Another situation is whenever you have multiple 7s, and especially when you have a 7 that is your only card, you'd want to pass that 7. You, of course, won't know if your partner doesn't have that suit as well, and you might be just passing them a lone 7, but it's more dangerous when it is in your hand and you know for a fact that that is your only 7 in your hand. So by giving that to your teammate, and of course, again, looking at trump, knowing that you have some trump in hand, if you just pass them the only green card they have, you'd at least have some trump still left in your hand, assuming they're not also passing you a card of that same color. And whenever you have multiple 7s in hand, you could always pass multiple 7s across, because just like the green ace, knowing where the 7s are very important, since that's the ultimate goal of every round. So if you pass those 7s to your teammate, both players know where those 7s are and the other team doesn't. Of course, these are all crazy conventions, weird different ways to make passing work for you. The more you play it, the more comfortable you get. If you play with the same players, especially the same teammate, you might be able to come up with your own conventions, your own weird ways to make that work. But those are just some ones that I've seen, that I have used personally that seem to work pretty well, especially when I'm playing with the same person over and over again. Otherwise, that's everything you need to know to play Yokai Septet. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I'll get to them as soon as I can. Thanks for watching.